here's something I could talk about. This right here is a former railroad crossing, as you can see, and they've paved the road over the tracks. You can see where it's seamed in. It's pretty straightforward. Just this car go by. Look at my nice big red truck. And now this is something I know for sure that I don't know if it's talked about too much, but see, these paths, a lot of these paths, the railroad companies that operated the trains might still own the land. In fact, most of the time they do, because they had to buy a certain amount of land to even put the tracks in there. So as a result, they've even removed the tracks if they're inactive, as you can see in the area that I'm standing on right now, that the tracks have been removed. However, the railroad company is still responsible for, it's still technically private property. The railroad company is still responsible for maintaining it, and so it's actually kind of cool. And if you happen to know where they lead to, it would be an awesome place for a long motorcycle, dirt bike, or ATV ride. Because if they're in a position where they're still responsible for it, they have to maintain that for, you know, whatever the contract is. Maybe it's 20 years, maybe it's, you know, I don't know how many years it is. It depends on the company, depends on what they do with it. It's starting to rain. But they have to maintain it for a period of time until, well, whenever, but there's another, that's the additional set of tracks. There were two sets of tracks running parallel at this intersection. That railroad crossing sign there also says exempt underneath it. So, you know, there won't be lights flashing, but it still has the sign up, and it still has the monitoring, because they have to maintain that, as I said, for at least however long they have to maintain it. It depends on, each contract is a little different for each location. It may be a period of miles. It might even be a case where if the tracks run through your backyard, that area of land, which is probably about 45 feet by 15 feet or whatever it is. I'm video blogging, you're gonna have to leave a message. So that's anyway, whatever it is, if it's however 45 feet wide is usually about what it is, probably more than that in most cases, but that would be the minimum it would be, because they need to own a certain amount of track on either, a certain amount of land on either side of the track. They could put it up for sale if it runs behind your yard. Then, well, then you have to maintain it. The only problem with maintaining it is if somebody takes an ATV through it, now they're on your property. Now, it's a double-edged sword. You know, it's private property. They didn't have a right to ride there. If they fell in a crater, too bad. Well, you know what, you know. Or they could try to hold you responsible as the landowner. Right now, that's what they're doing for the most part, is they're selling off to people whose yard it runs through. But for the time being, they have to maintain it. They have to keep that stone down. They have to keep it mowed. They have to keep, well, tree branches are a common thing to fall in. People throw stuff in the woods. That's their way of getting rid of it. You wouldn't believe the stuff that gets thrown on railroad tracks. But anyway, the companies have to maintain that for however long, and it varies from place to place, or they can put the land up for sale. So that's something that maybe it's interesting, maybe it's just me talking, but that's what I got for the moment. What time is it? It's 5:30, a little bit after. Alright, well, I'm going to be heading to my humble abode now. It is... I don't remember what well, that was pretty much the point as far as that goes. Was so if you see cleared railroad tracks, but there's that Oldsmobile Cutlass there is the exact body style of my first car. So that's a rougher one though. A little bit of work that could be pretty good. Got the expressway over here on my right, and going down here. Alright, well, I'll tune out for now. But I just thought I'd point those things out because I think it's interesting. Maybe you don't.